This is not financial advice, not legal advice, for entertainment, educational purposes only. Anything I say is my opinion. Please don't make any financial decision based on anything I say in these videos. Listen, everybody knows that the days to cover AMC, the days to cover GME is always going down. And the reason that it's going down is because the FTDs that the DTCC and FINRA allow these criminals, these bad actors to send overseas are not figured in the calculations. And they try to justify it by saying that once the FTDs leave U.S. soil, they no longer have jurisdiction over them, and that they don't figure them into the calculations of FTDs, not FTDs, excuse me, in a calculation of short interest and days to cover. This is the most ludicrous statement I've ever heard in my life. And they try to say that they don't know how overseas or other countries calculate the FTDs. And because they don't have any faith on how the other countries calculate their FTDs, this justifies them not counting the FTDs sent overseas into the days to cover and into the short interest. It is absolutely crazy. It is just more evidence that they are running a Ponzi scheme on the American people, okay? That's what they're doing. If you can create counterfeit shares of AMC, GME, MMTLP, Mullen, SoFi, NEO, or any stock that you want, and then just take those counterfeit shares, or not the shares itself, because the shares are actually sitting in the accounts of retail investors, pension funds, and institutions that follow the rules. But the evidence that you created these counterfeit shares and just send them overseas, send them to the Cayman Islands, send them to Panama, send them to Puerto Rico, or send them anywhere you want. And then the DTC says, poof, they don't exist. But somehow these counterfeit shares that were never delivered are sitting in the accounts of retail shareholders. They're sitting in the accounts of retail shareholders, but when it's time to say how many days they need to cover, they don't count those shares. Even though those shares are sitting in the accounts of retail shareholders, the evidence of the sale is sent overseas and disappears. How is that evidence of a fair and transparent stock market? In my opinion, that is evidence of a big Ponzi scheme where you're creating counterfeit shares, and then when you can't deliver them, you send them overseas and then create more counterfeit shares. And you're selling them to retail investors. You're selling them to pension funds. You're selling them to institutions that follow the rules. And the regulatory agencies, the law enforcement agencies that's supposed to be protecting us, allows this to go on every single day. Can you guys imagine that I sell you 100,000 counterfeit BMWs, and then I send you the titles for the 100,000 BMWs, and you're sitting there waiting for the BMWs to show up, and I send the evidence of the sales overseas, and then the FBI says, the DOJ says, the SEC says, well, we don't have any evidence that the sales ever took place, but we all have the titles to the BMWs. Here's the proof right here. We have the titles that they sent us. But somehow we never got the BMWs. What would happen in that scenario? Everybody involved in that would be charged with fraud. They would be indicted. But somehow, in the United States stock market, the 1%ers can do this every single day. sell you counterfeit shares. When it's time to deliver the counterfeit shares, they sent evidence of the sale overseas, and then the DOJ, the FBI, the SEC, DTCC, FINRA says, well, the evidence of the sale of the counterfeit shares is overseas in some foreign jurisdiction, so we have no proof that it ever took place. We have the titles. We have the counterfeit titles. We have the counterfeit shares in our account. That's the proof. But the SEC doesn't care. The DOJ doesn't care. The FBI doesn't care. DTCC doesn't care. And you know why? Because the ones losing money are retail investors, pension funds, and institutions that follow the rules. Do you guys think selling counterfeit anything and sending evidence of that counterfeit selling overseas would be tolerated in any other industry? Anyway, have a great day. God bless. I appreciate y'all on this journey with me.